In music and movies, there is a very short list of sequels that are better than the original. 2001 is better than Chronic, Animo is better than Undertow, Late Reg is better than College Dropout, Aliens is better than Alien, Terminator 2 better than Terminator, Godfather Part 2 better than The Godfather. I think you get my point. What sequels improving on the original accomplish is that even greater is possible. But with that improvement comes the double-edged sword of expectation, because that improvement sets an unrealistic stage that everything ahead is going to constantly trump the previous offering every time. Godfather Part 3 was questionable. Alien 3 sucked. I'd prefer to forget Terminator 3 ever existed. And if you're going to say The Dark Knight Rises, go ahead and have a seat. It is even close to how great the first two Batman Nolan movies are. But even the very best sequels end up collapsing under the weight of their own expectations in the third chapter. I guess what I'm getting at is, I found when I was charting snaps from Jaxson Dart against the Patriots, I saw the Game 1 glimmer boom into serious promise from Game 2. That promise fed the flames of fan and media fires into an expectation that the third act would be something of a grand finale, one that would see Dart actually stake his claim to QB1 for the Giants. Quote from the late great Woody Hayes, "Nothing cleanses the soul like having the hell kicked out of you." And Jackson didn't quite get the hell kicked out of him. Jalen Hyatt was no help. The Patriots defense still delivered a sobering reminder. Despite all that early promise, and yes, that promise is still there, at the end of the day, he's still a rookie with a lot of development ahead. And let me show you. Let's run the 9.
You do it like this.
When there are positives, I always like to kind of highlight and accentuate those positives first. And those positives in Dart's game can really all be found in Game 3 throughout this preseason performance. The first one is the off-script mobility. While he isn't the most gifted natural runner, he is capable of extending plays with his legs and obviously in the design running game. Beyond just the extending the play, his willingness to keep his eyes working downfield to locate receivers has been a huge asset. The modern NFL quarterback is an athlete as much as they've ever been, so the ability to continuously extend plays and to work away from interior pocket pressure has been pretty invaluable. While it is another tool to use, Dart does need to work on this one big thing, and that is the timing of his escapes. The more he tends to hold on, the more stress you put on your protection, and that can lead to some yellow laundry. The second is the quick timing passing game with clear windows to primary targets, especially red into out. Reading overhang and corner leverage, then throwing great passes to maximize yards after catch. Dart's throwing motion may not be elite, but he does throw a catchable ball. This can also be found in things like the RPO game, such as off this Z motion. This is basically just a little RPO glance, which is a read of the weak side backer with the eye pre-snap to the corner's leverage. Dart has been running these sort of concepts throughout his entire college career. He could do them in his sleep. So it's very wise of Coach Dable to sprinkle in these concepts. It helps generate manufactured completions and yardage. Third is Dart's willingness to stand tall in the pocket and to press the ball vertically off high-low reads, found in concepts like sail from this rep. Yes, it can be argued pressing linebackers with your eyes to open up weak side throws is the smarter play, especially when we take into account things like pass pro and personnel matchups. But those are much higher level quarterback staples that I'll get into later and Dart simply isn't ready for. You might ask why I'm not putting such a positive mark on the touchdown throw. That's because the read and throw itself were about as elementary as it gets when you consider the work of the NFL level. Sure, dart throw is a catchable ball, but what makes an NFL quarterback is their ability to process and make decisions. Coach Daboll involving the look of halfback exit motion that gets the Pats defense to sort of find themselves out of alignment really creates an easy throw for Dart. Now, before I explain how, when I was charting the personnel and formation, I noticed the solo receiver was Greg Dulcich, the tight end out of UCLA. Seeing a tight end split like that, it reminded me of something that Tony Romo had said in a cast from a quarterback perspective. That is, when you see big bodies split out like that, as a DB, you need to expect and deny any inside release, because those big bodies are just looking to play basketball on the perimeter by boxing you out with size and wingspan. Which then immediately reminded me of another former Giants player making the biggest catch of his career after being traded to the Saints. Hopefully I didn't bring up any painful memories, Giants fans. Sorry about that. If it's any consolation, I always love watching Jeremy Shockey when you guys had him. Feels like a lifetime ago. Anyway, back to the touchdown throw. The Giants have a dub concept to the weak side that is opposed with a halfback wheel. Depending on the defensive look that you get pre-snap, This can be read in to out or out to in with the halfback as the primary, much like a railroad concept. Pre-snap and before the halfback motion, the weak side safety is sitting high enough and inside that his pre-snap alignment would chase a lot of quarterbacks off of wanting to work this progression first. That's where you enter halfback motion. Now that same safety, who is aligned to high and inside, is aligned high and inside to the strength, with no additional second level defender to the weak side that might deny the throwing lane. The motion allows Dart time and clarity to reset his eyes. He sees the gift of the void clear as day pre-snap, and then once the ball is in his hands, this becomes a one-of-one read for an easy touchdown throw. When I say there are things Jaxson Dart just isn't ready for, I want to close out my assessment with two of the plays that highlight just that. The first is an RPO bubble read that the Patriots, I admit, did a good job of making this read as muddled as possible for the rookie to decide on. Now, in a bubble RPO to the slot receiver, your key read will always be to float off of the leverage of the overhang defender, picking up the bubble slot in coverage. What New England did in this look ended up confusing Dart pre-snap. And instead of being quick to think in the moment by reaffirming the look post-snap, he just went off of his pre-snap read only and ended up bellying the rock to the halfback. The Pats bluff an in and out bracket on the slot receiver, the safety being high and inside, the corner being high and outside. This look specifically made Dart think that he would maintain offensive numbers in the running game and to hand the ball off to Cam Scadaboo. True to form in many two-high shell NFL defenses, the slot DB begins to cheat inside and rather aggressively triggers downhill to the run, while the safety is still high and inside nearly 15 yards off the receiver. This lack of trust but verifying of defensive information, casually ignoring that a well-coached Vrabel defense will not hand you box numbers, especially in the red zone, was one of the first things I know that was shown in that quarterback room meeting after this game. Defenses convoluting these RPO reads is going to happen at the professional level of football. You have to maintain eye discipline and identify the run fit versus the coverage. Now, it's something I was quick to critique Shedeur Sanders on in the Browns preseason game, so it's something to be familiar of only in fairness here. Neither quarterback did the right thing in the reps that I have covered. They did not maximize the concept. If your follow-up question about the touchdown was to ask about the 50-yard throw on 2nd and 6, I'll defer back to two things I've said. Dart's mobility and his ability to keep his eyes available downfield while on the run are absolutely weapons to have, but it was a scramble drill that never needed to happen to begin with. Had his eyes taken to the correct places pre-snap, he would have found his number 3 receiver without ever having to leave the pocket. And this is the higher level quarterbacking pre and post snap I had mentioned just a few minutes ago that Dart needs to make second nature. Pre-snap, the Giants have a pivot follow concept with a slot fade insert to the strong side tight end as the number 2. Certain offenses alert the slot fade as the primary when you draw things like single high safety, 2 high safety alignments pinched inside where they can't recover downfield, or especially in single high when you draw press coverage looks from the slot DBs. In this case, we have a strong side safety high and inside, just over the number 3, with a slot corner high and outside of that number 2 running the slot fade. Now, if you'd watched my previous Browns videos, I'd explain that this is called speed at 3. So a safety is going to read and react with the release of this receiver because this receiver would be the most immediate vertical threat to his coverage. With the slot corner high and outside of the slot fade, you're almost sure to draw a man coverage match here, especially when you toss on the look of the linebacker splitting all the way out to cover the halfback on the perimeter. The strong side safety eyes the release of the number 3 underneath and immediately turns to bracket the tight end as the number 2 is running the slot fade. The strong side hook linebacker is tasked with matching and carrying the number 3 when breaking shallow like this, but passing off the receiver if he crosses the formation. These linebackers playing this exchange helps to protect them against mesh concepts by minimizing the gray areas in these match zones. Only this isn't a mesh concept, it's the pivot follow. So to the strong side, your reads would have gone high-low first to the slot fade and then second to the receiver running the pivot concept who was coming wide open against the linebacker's leverage the entire time. Dart tries to direct traffic, then uses the natural gift of his mobility plus his eyes to eventually find the receiver that should have been his second read. Now the result is still an explosive passing play that puts the Giants on the doorstep of a touchdown. While I know it may sound perfectionist, it does remind me of a quote from the immortal words of Mos Def. Why did the one straw break the camel's back? Here's the secret. It was the million other straws underneath it. It's all mathematics. When I see a quarterback who has to do with his legs what he cannot accomplish with his mind and his eyes, you add yet another straw to that camel's back. Even in this rep where most Giants fans will be excited because they see that glimpse of Josh Allen comparisons, there is still so much defensive information that can be taken away from it. To further that, you find you have a young quarterback who likes to expose himself to contact, not only by escaping the pocket vertically where there is naturally more traffic, but not really having the presence of mind to protect himself downfield and ends up taking unnecessary hits to finish runs. And that's kind of where we're at as we walk into this 2025 season. The Giants made two huge investments into their future this past draft with a defensive cornerstone piece in Abdul Carter, and now they're shot at a franchise quarterback in Jaxson Dart. Now, something that bothers me is seeing commentary from fans, media, former players, personnel analysts throughout the internet, a lot on YouTube, essentially making more of something that isn't. There seems to be this collective short memory along with a gullibility stemming from being just too easily impressed. Now, this isn't to dismay Giants fans or disparage Jaxson Dart, not in the least. What I've taken away from watching 3 games is this. Dart is promising and will continue to be promising, but he still has no business starting as a rookie week 1. The high-level things I detailed in the last few plays, which he missed, will only be more routine in the regular season, which means that there's more to understand, more to process, more that his mind will have to play catch-up to the professional game of football while 300-pound linemen are attempting to destroy you. And when you combine the need with improving some mechanical issues, developing proper timing, chemistry with your receivers, spending hours in quarterback meetings, tossing out a penchant for a young quarterback taking hits on the run and in the pocket, the most reasonable thing to do is stay the course. Protect your investment. Let Russell Wilson do what he was brought in to do, mentoring a rookie both on and off the field. This gives your offense a fighter's chance of complementing what should be a fierce defensive front. Win some games along the way. Keep the fan base and the locker room on your side. Patience isn't just a virtue. In this case, it needs to be the Giants coaching staff's primary strategy. Immediately plugging Dart in the offense and attempting to power through the regular season is just not the pragmatic approach. And if I've seen deficiencies here, I know the professionals on both the Giants coaching staff and opposing defenses will as well. The Giants front office and coaching staff took a big bet on Dart, and now comes the hardest part: waiting. As is with anything in a contest between power and patience, bet on patience. Because I have trust in Brian Daboll, and I'm betting on him doing the right thing.